Great rising, great being, great and independent on what part of time this reaches you. Figured I'd switch some stuff up, give y'all a different avenue. First, I just want to thank all my supporters, subscribers, everybody who's benefiting from any of this content. Again, I'm just doing my best to be my best and my purpose and who I am, and I really hope this benefits a lot of people. This is the Divine Conscious Efforts podcast. I've tried to do the podcast thing before with Divine Conscious Effort, and I didn't know which way I wanted to take it. But now that I've put some content out on YouTube, I have an idea of that. So, that being said, I want to give everybody their avenue to hear these messages, whether it's via Instagram, YouTube, podcast. I want it to be available, even book. Shameless plug, go check it out. Newest Testament, Divine Conscious Effort, Amazon. Okay, now that's out of the way. Today I want to kind of get in a real personal topic, and that's self-realizations. Self-realizations. A lot of times in life, we avoid these things. Either we are distracted, and we avoid them unknowingly, or we just don't want to deal with what work comes with, unloading this baggage that we carry along through life that we label as our traumas. And part of that is self-realizations, being real with yourself. A lot of us struggle with that. Unfortunately, again, I like to say in previous content that we live in a society and a time now where we put more pride and we put more attention and focus to how things are presented than how things actually are. So that's, again, tying back to why some people will intentionally avoid their self-realizations, is because they are too complacent or comfortable, or they benefit too much from controlling the narrative and controlling how they're presented, compared to actually embracing and gaining control and taking their power back and just being who they are in the reality of things. So, self-realizations, and any of this content doesn't just apply to you guys. Again, this is my journey. A lot of the times that I'm sharing a testimony and my insight about, and I share it hoping it resonates. So, again, a lot of this stuff is directed to me first and foremost before it's directed to anybody else, any listener, anybody that crosses. All right, let's get into it. Self-realizations. One of the things with self-realizations is, for me, one of my first ones was my mental imbalances from my own self-illusion. And for me, I can be honest. For me, I was blind so long from understanding that a lot of the things that I complain about, that I suffered from, that bothered me, that hurt me, that became a trauma, that became something that that had a certain attachment or bond to me. I played more of a role than anybody else. So, I mean, and of course, the things we experience in life and the things we do in life, yes, everybody plays their part. But again, what's self-realization without the focus of self? So you have to, kind of train your mind and work on redirecting your mind where your mind wants to go, and you direct it where it needs to go. And a lot of times our mind wants to go and place blame on these people who played their part or played their role in the harm and the hurt and the pain and the trauma, the letdown, all those type of things. Our mind tends to want to take it to them. It's easier to do that. But what our mind needs is to redirect it to self. Because a lot of the times we put ourselves in these positions, we attach ourselves to people, and we direct ourselves sometimes into these experiences that end up harming us in the long run. So again, for me, one of my first self-realizations, and I think this is a realization that, maybe we all need to kind of think on or brainstorm about when it comes to who we are. But I had major mental imbalances from self-illusion. Part of that mental imbalance was emotional imbalance, mentally being so drained, overthinking. I continue to be an overthinker. So part of that overthinking kind of threw my mental balance off. So then for me, when that mental balance is thrown off, everything else gets thrown off, because now mentally I'm in my head about everything. Okay, is this right? Why is always asking why is this like this? Why this had to be this way? And it's kind of like a rabbit hole you can kind of find yourself going down. But yeah, mental imbalances from self-illusion. And as far as the self-illusion, it ties back to what I was speaking on just a minute ago. Sometimes we are the cause of our suffering just by not being aware or being blind to our faults and our own cause and effect in what we choose to do or not do. The things that play a part in our decision making and our actions. What's really governing you behind the things that you're thinking, behind the things that you're feeling, and the actions that you're taking. And sometimes when we're blind to those things, we create the conditions for us to suffer, or for us to be stuck in cycles, for us to be in toxic relationships, for us to just feel like we can't get ahead. So it's important that you do a self-check and make sure you're balanced mentally, so that you can be aware of any self-illusions. The next point I kind of want to get to is, does what we do really matter to us, and why? I think this is a good self-realization to think about often, and quite often. I think so because it plays into who we accept ourselves to be. And it plays into our self-acceptance, our self-love. So does what we do really matter to us? Sometimes in life we can get so caught up in survival, trying to survive, just trying to get by, excuse me, that we can slip out of, I'm going to use the word routine, our routine, and fall into the routine of the world. Basically we start to settle without even knowing it. We tend to steer away from the things that feed into who we truly are, and the things that will really bring us this joy, that will bring us mental balance, emotional balance. And we start to just be on autopilot with life, just getting through the day, and then doing that just to get through the week, and then before you know it, a month's gone by, and then in that time frame, it's been all this time, but you don't feel alive, and I think that kind of ties into this point, that stems from not doing what really matters to us. So I had to ask myself that at a point in time, like, am I doing what really matters to me? And this is where purpose comes from. This is where, understanding what you're good at, what are your talents, what makes you the best version of you, what makes you different from others, and isolating and pinpointing those things to not hide them and suppress them, but bring them to the light. Feed more into them, broaden them. And with that question, because for me at first it was no. So am I doing what matters to me? It was no. So then I had to ask myself, well, why? Why am I not doing that? And for me personally, it was a list of things. I can just run a few things by you. And if you're listening again, thanks again. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube channel, Divine Conscious Efforts. But I had to ask myself why. I'm not doing what matters to me. Why? And it came down to validation. It came down to pride. It came down to fear. And I'm going to just use those three as an example, so I can keep flowing and keep on track. But yeah, I was fearful what people would think of me. That mattered because I tended to seek validation for who I was and what I was capable of, or what my achievements and my goals were. And when you depend on people in that way, people are not going to value you the way you can value you. People are not going to understand you like you can understand you when you choose to understand you. So yeah, out of fear, for validation, I just didn't, and maybe you are in a position like that where the current job you at, you don't like it, or the current relationship you in it might be looking a little shaky on the not gonna work in, or these things, you're seeing these things, but you're just so comfortable that you settle, that you just do what matters to everybody else and not what matters to you. So we got to be mindful that, of course, you want to be nice to people in the world. You want to consider people, but you never want to consider people to the detriment of yourself. You want to make sure if you're sacrificing yourself for the say, that it's not just gonna bite you in the ass in the long run and leave you assed out with yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person that's gonna be there for you, no matter what, is you and God. So, make sure you're doing what matters to you and not just doing what matters to others, and understand why you're doing the thing that matters to you and what that is for you. Because to take it a step further, you have to have that self-realization on understanding what does matter to you, and even that's a journey, even that's a process. So just always be patient with yourself with these self-realizations as well, because nothing's gonna change overnight. You got to do the study, you got to do the work, and then you got to apply. Then you got to apply to the point that it's practicing what it is that you really want to seek to achieve within yourself, and what you really want to gain from these understandings and these realizations within yourself. The next point with self-realizations that kind of allowed me to progress is I had to ask myself, do any of us truly know what makes us happy? And that question kind of stemmed from the previous question: do we know what matters to us and what matters to us? And for me, a lot of the things that matter to me are the things that make me happy. But even in saying that, I had to again question myself, like, do we really know what makes us happy? Because I feel like for myself, because I would create my own self-illusions, I was lost within myself and lost of myself. And because of me always doing what mattered to others and not necessarily being true to myself and being and doing what mattered to me, I kind of changed the concept of me. And I feel like a lot of us are suffering for that. Sometimes we ignore the things that are really of us, the things that will really make us happy, the things that we really are interested in. It was a lot of times in school, I will remember people not being honest with whether they like to read or not, or if they like this music or this rapper or whatever. I think we live in a society where we just have so much convenience, and we depend so much on attention and that self gratification feeling that we manipulate and try our best to control how people see us, that we lose sight of ourselves. So do you know what truly makes you happy? Like really ask yourself, what really makes you happy? What made you happy before you had that bad experience that pushed you away from this certain activity or this type of a person? Because I feel like that's what our traumas are. I feel like the things that we hold on to are that we can't let go of, they tie to our happiness, that's what makes the pain and the hurt so quote unquote exaggerated, or I rather say intense, because we all want to do what makes us happy. But I feel like in these times, in this day and age, we are so dependent on the opinions and the validations of we second guess what makes us happy, and we want to fit in. Everybody's trying their best to fit in, and they're thinking about how they look on the outside, or they don't trust themselves. They don't like themselves. We tend to have esteem issues, and we tend to again ignore who we truly are, and we become who we are not. At the end of the day, if you are not doing what makes you happy, and you're settling, and you're swapping out stuff that, yeah, it's fun for you, but it's not the thing that makes you happy. Yeah, this is something you're good at, but it's not the thing that makes you happy. Yeah, this is a part of your life, but it's not what makes you happy. We have to be truthful to ourselves so that we can be truthful to others, so that we can get out of this self-illusion and start understanding what really matters to us, and start truly doing the things that make us happy. Next and final point on this topic of self-realization. Again, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe the channel so we can grow as a unit. Again, self-realization, final point. I had to ask myself, why waste so much time for validation? Again, all these points stem from one another. So I was just talking about how validation plays so much of a part, or so much of a role in our life, in regards to how we choose to move in life, or how we see ourselves, how we see others, how we experience life, how we experience situations, whatever you want to kind of call it. At the end of the day, at some point of time in your life experience, you seek some type of validation, or you were in need of validation, or you really seek to look for validation, meaning you depended on some type of validation. So for me, asking myself what my self-realization was, I needed the validation to prove or give me a sense of worth. I just had to have a sense of worth. I did not know how to have that self-worth, or understand my self-worth, or understand my value without the validation externally. Meaning, and sometimes I still struggle with this. Again, I'm honest with y'all. This is real life. This is a journey. Again, I hope this can help you guys. Sometimes I still struggle with catching myself seeking validation to prove and to understand and acknowledge my worth. It's a hard thing. It's something that stems back into my childhood, which is why it has such a hook in me. But I think a lot of our validation issues, or the topic of validation, or in regards to self-realization conversation, results to our childhood, and how we were validated as a child, and how we were taught to kind of validate ourselves, or taught how to get validation, or to use validation in a healthy way. But yeah, why do we waste so much time for validation? I wasted so much time seeking validation because I did not know my worth, and I seek that worth from the validation and the opinions of others. So I cannot speak for everybody, but if that's something you're dealing with, if you're struggling with validation, I know I did. It's one of those things where you have to really separate yourself and experience yourself, and remove influence. I think influence feeds that need for validation because we are all influential. We live in an influential time right now. And because we have so many influences on our perspective of life, it makes us compare our lives to others, which makes us not appreciate our life. And soon as you start to appreciate your life and what's attached to you and the magnitude in which it can be done, you start to lose your worth. And when you start to feel worthless, you need something to get you back in that feeling of some type of worth. And a lot of us use validation for that. So all your validation does not have to come in that form or fashion, and not all validation is bad, but do not waste so much time seeking validation from externally when you can have the self-realizations and go through the processes to obtain your own validation and feed into yourself. And always take things to God. First and foremost, always take things to God, whether it's mental imbalances, whether you're in self-illusion, whether you're trying to figure out what really matters to you and why, any of it, even when it comes to what truly makes you happy, always take it to God, because I'm going to always tell you it's in alignment with God. So don't fear or keep running from your self-realizations. It's a beautiful thing. It's very healing, and it's something that will benefit you in the long run. And if you have children, it would benefit them, because some of these self-realizations definitely affect our parenting and are affecting the other relationships outside of ourselves. So, as always, be you. Never give up. Never settle. Always love yourself. Be true to yourself. God loves one love. And remember, life is beautiful when you're allowed to be.
Finally in my happy place. Seems I just needed me some space. So give it. Watch as I pivot. My situation and spirit. Parting as I hit on this. Do you hear it? Medication a must. So I know it's that good stuff. I took one puff, now I'm -2 lungs. Mary made me Chris Tucker. Now I'm looking Jackie Chan as I rush hour. No Sue Young. She Mushu, no time for camel hump. Chasing croutons, get caught slipping, then lay it out like futons. But who gives a fuck what you want? I mind my business. What do you own? Oh yeah, you don't. Been a while since the bottom. Probably mad I forgot 'em, but all